We're going to begin talking about behavior management within the home, or how to apply a trauma-informed lens to foster care and also to biological parents. This thinking started when we realized that we were working with foster parents in our therapeutic foster care program, and we were telling them a lot about what not to do, and we weren't telling them much about what to do. We were telling them not to be too punitive, not to be inflexible, to be flexible, to not do too much of the grounding and taking away privileges, not making things earned. But we weren't telling them how they could respond to problems and behavior that hurts others. So we started thinking, what can we do to help foster parents? Some of this thinking also applies to biological parents. So what I've come to realize is that there's many ways to be a parent, and many of them are fine. There are some ways that are abusive and are not fine, but parents can be more or less strict. They can ground a kid for doing something. They can have more activities or less, many different ways to be. But what our kids, especially our foster kids, need is a caring home in which they can stay. What they do not need is to keep moving from home to home. That's destroying their ability to make connections. What they need is to stay in one place that cares about them. So what can we do to help foster parents keep kids? And it struck me that we need to help foster parents along two continuum. One is on how do you define behavior? How do you understand the behaviors these kids are doing? And the second one is what's going to help them? How do you reimagine what you can do that makes a difference? So there's two continuums we could look at. One continuum is, how do we understand why this kid is acting this way? Why is this kid doing all these crazy things? And all of us are somewhere along this continuum, and we vary actually from day to day about where we stand on this continuum. But you could think of one end of the continuum being, she's doing this because she's defiant, disrespectful, she doesn't respect me, she's manipulative, she's trying to get her own way, she's trying to get attention, she's sneaky, she doesn't care about me, she just wants what she wants. She needs more discipline. She's never really been disciplined enough. On the other end of the continuum is, she's doing this behavior because she's scared, confused. She feels vulnerable. She's afraid to trust because people have hurt her. No one has been trustworthy in her life. She's hypervigilant, always looking for danger, always expecting danger, as that has been her experience. She doesn't know what to do. She has life skills that she's never learned. She's never learned emotion management. All foster parents, like all of us, are somewhere along this continuum in their understanding of children's behavior. The second continuum is about, what does the child need to do better? What will help them heal? What actually will help them to change? So this continuum goes from on one end, that what will help them is rules, punishments, rewards, consistency, strict enforcement, lectures about why they should do better, and to take responsibility for his behavior. The other end of that continuum is that what will help a child to act better is safety, love, being part of something, being noticed, cared about, connected, to belong, to learn skills, which they will learn within relationships and practice those skills, to participate in rhythmic activities, to play, to have fun, to enjoy pleasurable activities with adults, and to get enough sleep. Again, we're all somewhere along this continuum, and it may vary from day to day. So what we want to do is help a foster family move from wherever they are in the continuum a little further along towards the trauma-informed end. We want them to understand behavior differently and understand what helps differently. So how do we do that? Well, the first part is education. We have to educate foster parents on trauma, on how does it affect people? What are the biological and psychological effects of trauma? Especially how does it affect relationships? We have to teach foster parents about being stuck in the human danger response and what it's like to always live with danger. We have to teach them about the physical changes to the brain and body, so that all this will help them understand that the person is not acting this way just to get to them, just because they don't respect them, that they actually have physical changes which have been as a result of their early neglect and abuse. And we also have to explain that children haven't learned skills and be specific about what skills the kids need to learn to be able to manage life more without such negative consequences. And then education is one thing, but then you have to practice. And we practice while we're supporting foster parents in the daily struggles of foster parenting, in helping them understand an individual child who's in their home and how to make sense out of the behavior that they're seeing. We try to connect the behavior that they saw yesterday to the child's past. We want to help them look for patterns. When does this kid act this way? What are the times where they're most vulnerable? What problem is that child trying to solve? How is their behavior adaptive? We want them to realize how vulnerable our kids are to fear and to confusion, to overstimulation, and to not knowing what to do. And that our kids have had in the past the experience that when they're vulnerable, when they're confused, when they don't know what to do, they are hurt. So those feelings bring panic to them, and that results in some of the behaviors. The feeling of being overwhelmed, of being confused, not understanding, that can lead to panic and lashing out. And we want to think about, okay, this kid in your house, this very kid, how can we, now that we understand some of the problems that his behavior is solving for him, how can we help him learn to solve his behavior problems in more positive ways and to meet the same needs without hurting others? Then what the foster parents also need to move along this continuum is support. That this is hard work. People don't change quickly. And the kids have had so much bad experiences that it takes quite a while of good experiences to make a difference. Also, the foster parent may be getting a lot of hassle from their family or others in their community, so they need a support to move in this direction. Others may be saying to them, oh, why don't you just punish him and stuff like that. So we need to not just validate the child, but also validate the parent and help them find ways to reconnect with the child and help the child to make amends. We want to help the parents see the child's behavior through the lens of things they've experienced themselves, so that they can understand how behavior is sometimes adaptive and it helps in the short run, even when it doesn't help in the long run. So then the second continuum is about what will heal. The first part was about how do we understand the behaviors? How do we help parents shift on what they think will help the kid? Help the parents understand that it's through their having fun with the kid and caring about them that the child will heal, not through punishments. And that the most important thing the foster parent can do is give the child a different experience with a human being, help the child see that there are good people out there in the world. And when the foster parent does that and forms that relationship with the child, they'll be building the child's brain. They'll be rewiring the brain to overcome some of the problems that were caused by early development. At the same time, the foster parent within the relationship will be teaching skills such as emotion management. They'll be teaching that by what they say, but also by what they do to manage their own emotions. These are the important jobs that a foster parent has. Another thing that will help the child to heal is feeling safe. We know that when you're feeling unsafe, you can't do anything else. You can't form relationships, you can't learn, you can't change. So there was this experiment with baby rats where some experimenters had baby rats in a cage, and they had always lived in a cage. They'd never been free. They'd never seen a cat. And they were playing with each other and, of course, fooling around like all baby mammals do. And then the experimenters introduced 3 cat hairs into the cage. These rats had never seen cats, but they apparently had a genetic understanding that cats were dangerous. All play stopped. When they felt danger was in their midst, they stopped all play. The experimenters removed the cat hair very quickly, but the play didn't resume for 2 weeks and never got back to where it was. So we have to help foster parents look at their own environments and think, what helps a kid feel safe here? Is there anything else we can do to help them feel safe? Do they need a nightlight? Do they need to understand the routines better? Do they need predictable routines and to be told when something is going to disrupt those routines or someone new is going to come into the home? All these ways that we can help kids feel safe will help them calm down, their bodies calm down, and enable them to behave better. Again, what helps people understand what heals kids is practice. As they begin to try some of these things and they see how much difference they really make for the kids, they get solidified inside the parent. So you're trying to look through understanding that the behavior is adaptive. What you can do with the foster parents and the kid in your office or in their home is play with them, get them started playing, because sometimes it might be awkward to start to play. Also, foster parent programs can sponsor fun activities for foster parents and their kids, picnics, talent shows, field days, any kinds of things where the parents and kids are encouraged to have fun together. Project Joy, which is now sponsored through the Life is Good t-shirts, does a lot of this, which is just awesome. So look them up if you can. We want to teach families about how they can employ rhythm to help kids calm down in times of distress, where we want to guide them in the idea of helping the foster parent lead the child to have a way to make amends for things they've done to hurt the family, because that will leave the relationship in better shape and will also teach the child that when something goes wrong, you can fix it. And then talking with a foster parent about their routines and can they build into their routine things of bonding, things that most parents often do, like reading a child a story at night. And of course, again, support. Support helps parents learn this somewhat foreign concept of not healing through punishment, but healing through connection. And also, as we're giving the support, we have to remember that the foster parents themselves often have trauma histories. That may be part of what brought them into being a foster parent. So we have to be sensitive to how the child's actions and histories are triggering the foster parents' histories, and how what was or was not done for them plays out with this child. The more a foster parent can be open about that and gain their own self-awareness about that, it'll really help. As a worker, we can point out anything we see that shows connection, that demonstrates that even though they don't always act like it, the child is getting connected to the parents. We also want to offer opportunities for breaks with respite. We want to offer opportunities for self-care. I was a speaker at a foster parent conference, and as part of the conference for foster care people, they had all sorts of spa opportunities. And then we're trying to work on everyone's self-awareness. So what can we teach foster parents that they can actually do in their home that will help with problem behaviors? I've divided this section into 3 sections. One is what they can do to prevent problem behaviors or diminish them. The second one is what to do during them, and the third one is what to do afterwards. So there's lots of parts to prevention, many of which I've already named, but certainly helping a child learn how to name emotions and identify emotions and showing them that partly by what you do, so you naming your own emotions and talking about how you're going to manage it, reminding them that there's hope, that all is not lost. Again, we try to constantly be thinking about what problem is this child trying to solve? What are the advantages to him of this behavior? So the only way we can teach children how to stay calm is to stay calm ourselves. And if we use a technique like, oh, I'm getting agitated, I think I need to go for a short walk, narrate it, say it out loud so the kid can watch you doing this. Very important that we notice small progress and that we point out successes. Also, as I mentioned, that we have structure, rituals, schedules. That will help a kid develop a sense of safety. One of the primary areas for problems with kids who've had especially early abuse is in sleeping and in self-care hygiene. Both of those reflect problems with connection between the body and brain, which can disrupt sleep, which can disrupt signals from the body so that the brain doesn't really even know that the body's getting hungry or needing to go to the bathroom. Also, part of that is self-worth, that kids who feel like they're worthless have trouble with self-care and keeping themselves clean and so forth. But the main message to the foster parents is these aren't discipline issues. These are issues about the child's body and how they've been hurt as they grew up. And so as the parent can support the healing of these issues with closeness and creativity, they will heal. They're not things the child is doing on purpose, and they're not things that will be fixed by rewards. So during a problem, during a time when a child is starting to have a meltdown, what do we want foster parents to do? Well, we want them to look around at and try and figure out what's going on. Obviously, if it's an emergency, they have to act. But if it isn't an emergency and the child is just getting revved up, look around and think if there's anything that could make this child feel that they're in danger. Or has there just been too much stimulation? And remember, good things count as stimulation. So if there's been a lot of people over, or you just went to a baseball game, or or new people came by, or their routine of when to eat and when to sleep was disrupted by a party. These things are all overstimulation, and they can send any kid off track. But for a foster kid, they may cause a larger, more complete breakdown. You have to be really careful about shame. The children come to us with great shame already, and we want to look at, are we doing anything to make them feel more shame, which could be something like talking about their problems with other people there, or having them overhear them talking about them, or somehow emphasizing their lack of doing something right, or their tone of voice. And we have to remember that when someone is agitated, they can't think, they can't reason, so we don't want to reason with them then. At the moment when someone is agitated, all we want to do is help them calm down. How do we do that? By validating, by asking them to tell us more, by understanding, by being calm ourselves, and by being patient. Not by giving advice and not by talking about consequences. Only once someone is already calm can we connect with them and then eventually reason about what happened. So as Bruce Perry says, regulate, relate, reason. So first comes regulate, calm down, then comes relate, which is connect, and then reason. Then you can talk about the meaning of what happened or what would be a better way to handle it. We don't want to send kids away to their rooms. People, and especially people with trauma history, don't calm down by being alone. They don't think about their behavior and how they could have done better. Instead, they're plunged into a whole abyss of despair and just start feeling worse and worse. And when they do so, they can't tolerate it, so they're very likely to do something else wrong. So we want to be more redirecting and coaching and help people stay closer when they're agitated rather than sending them away when they're agitated. So what about afterwards? So something has happened, we got through it somehow, people are calm again, then what? We want to work this through. We want to find some way for the kid to repair the relationship. Sometimes it's by, say they broke something, maybe they could fix it. They disrupted the family, maybe they could participate in cooking the family dinner. Sometimes it's just talking about it, talking about what happened, what the child was experiencing. Maybe the child can write or draw or make a collage or in some way to communicate what that experience was like for them and what was happening with them. And then a reconnection, because people don't learn by perfect relationships, they learn by rupture and repair. That when something is wrong in a relationship, that we fix it. This is not an experience that our kids have had much of, but it's a really important skill for them to learn. We want to talk about what happened with our team and try and understand what need the kid was meeting. When did it happen? When did the problem start? Were there any keying events that we noticed? Any things that led up to the event? What added to the problem? What helped the problem? And what ideas for next time? And this can key in with having a crisis prevention and management plan where you learn as you go along more and more things that can help the child calm down, and you have those ready the next time. And then also talking it over with the child themselves. One of the things that's really important to remember with foster parents as well as with staff is vicarious traumatization. When I was teaching this to a group of foster parents, one person said that she'd been a foster parent for 16 years and no one had ever asked her how it affected her as a person. So that was pretty sad. So we have to pay attention to the experiences of the foster parents themselves and how the work is affecting them. If we don't do that, the foster parents will burn out and leave. And there's some specific unique ways of being a foster parent creates vicarious traumatization. There's many that overlap with staff, but there's some that are different. And one of them is that the relationship is often temporary and that neither party knows for how long. So kids are taken out of homes with very little warning. They're often dropped off with very little warning. Sometimes they're supposed to be there for a short time and they stay a long time. So neither parent nor child knows how long a relationship this is going to be. And here it is happening in your own home. You can't get away from it. You can't take a break easily. Oftentimes, families and friends don't understand why you're doing this foster caring in the first place, but they especially don't understand why you're handling a kid a certain way and may say things like, I wouldn't let him get away with that, or you should just punish him. He needs to learn to respect others. So that can result in conflict and lack of support for a foster family. Another thing a foster parent experiences is a conflict among loyalties, and one of the main ones is about their own biological children if they have them. It can be very difficult if the foster parent starts to feel that having that foster child there is having a bad effect on their own children. This can destroy many foster placements, and the parent may feel very torn between what their own children need and what the foster child needs. So this is something that we really need to talk about and have a chance to explore. Then, of course, like staff, the foster parent is sharing the child's pain, understanding the terrible things that have happened in that child's past and feeling, and that is a bad feeling. And then oftentimes the system in the present is not responding well to the child. The school system isn't getting the child what it needs. The services that the child needs aren't available, and the foster parent experiences that pain too. Of course, they have to constantly manage crisis, have high stakes. Some people may get a feeling that others, such as the DCF worker or the school or the support worker expect them to be able to fix things more quickly. Sometimes they don't have a backup, and sometimes if they have to call the police or something, they'll get an unhelpful reaction. So what can help with VT? Well, one of the main things is to name it and talk about it, and also have the opportunity for foster parents to talk with other foster parents, to have groups on this so people can share this. That is the most powerful thing that can help people not get overwhelmed by the pain. Having breaks, having respite, developing self-awareness, having lots of fun and celebrations where the program celebrates the foster parent successes and the child's successes and has fun activities, pointing out the successes, having opportunities to share the successes, big and small, and then paying attention to the concept of vicarious traumatization, transformation. That's ways in which things that are difficult are hard, but they also help us grow and change as people. So encouraging foster parents to talk about in what ways being a foster parent has made their life better and richer and helped them to grow as a person, and also has made the life of their children better and richer. We need to focus on this rather as an antidote to always focusing on the difficulties of the problems the kids are having. So if we can give the if we can give the foster parents the opportunity to connect with other foster parents and also to talk with their support people about how the work is affecting them, that'll be very important in keeping them hopeful and energized to the work. Thank you.